Who is ready for the next scale-up? We're going to have a presentation made by Frisbo. So please welcome on stage and some energy, please. So you have 10 minutes. Starting now.
Hello, my name is Bogdan and I'm founder of Frisbo, an e-commerce fulfillment business. Just, to give a short definition, fulfillment is that service which is typically a logistics service for e-commerce, which means the storage of the goods, pick and pack and ship to the end customer for the e-commerce store. Now, the problem is 90% of the online stores in EU do not sell cross-border. Even though it's EU, it's a free market, everybody could do it, should do it maybe, but they choose not to or they cannot do it. Now, besides the marketing problems or all kinds of localization problems, there is a big logistics problem. And the problem of logistics is that, first, it's too expensive. They simply shipping, let's take the simple example, shipping from Poland to Germany is much more expensive than shipping from Germany to Germany, right? And then you cannot really deliver next day cross-border unless it's really the neighboring country and you're really in a position to be able to deliver next day to the neighboring country. And the third problem is you don't really have a return address for every country you're in. You cannot even list, for instance, on Amazon in Germany if you don't have a return address. And you cannot have return addresses everywhere. So this is kind of a showstopper for e-commerce businesses in Europe to be able to actually do competitive cross-border selling. And those who do it actually do it quite poorly because they either fulfill from their own country and they have all those problems that we listed, or they simply have to go from country to country, find local fulfillers, find local couriers, do different contracts, different integrations, different assessments, and then in the end have a few fulfillers that work independently. They cannot sync stock among them, they cannot optimize in any way, and just go along with a high cost forward. So what we thought as a solution and what we actually did is we simply connected the local fulfillers into one fulfillment network that we then offered as a plug-and-play service to every online shop. So this way, they would have access to any warehouse, anywhere, through one contract and one integration, and then be able to fulfill anywhere. So how do we do that? Well, it's simple. We just offer one dashboard where they see everything, fast delivery, because of course, if you have your stock localized as close to the end customers as possible, then you can do a fast delivery at local cost. They pay as they go. It's normal. It's a pay-as-you-go service. It's pretty much plug and play, of course, depending to every e-commerce platform and so on, but most of them allow it to be very easy to set up. The stocks are always in sync. That's important with any e-commerce channels. Just imagine that you sell on multiple marketplaces and maybe multiple e-commerce platforms. So it's easy to have everything synced, but most importantly, everything optimized as stock. Just to give you an example, you might stock in Slovakia and reach 3 countries with next day delivery, stock in Romania, reach another 3 countries with next day delivery, Benelux for other 3 countries and so on. So we just do order processing and inventory management, which is the normal thing that a fulfiller would do. The big difference is that we do not own or we do not operate ourselves any warehouse. We do it by simply building a network of these warehouses. And so far, we started in Romania, we expanded in the neighboring countries, and by the end of this year, we will basically cover the entire Europe. It's not even on the map yet, because just last week, we signed for a few warehouses in the UK. By the end of the year, we'll have the Baltic countries as well in the network. Why is it easy to expand the fulfillment network? Well, basically because the integration is very fast, and here is one of the key elements to expansion, because we do not build our own warehouse management system and give it to the warehouses. We go in and integrate their existing warehouse management system, and that will give zero disruption to their daily activity. For them, it's, it's no bother to accommodate Frisbo because they do what they usually do. And of course, there are zero costs for the warehouse to do that. So then how do we make money? And the business model is simple. It's a shared revenue model where we take 35% of the entire fulfillment process, and then we also take about 10% from deliveries with local couriers, depending on the contracts we get on the ground. Of course, the more volumes we get and the more time we spend on the market, we get better margins. So that's a more variable in the model at this point. And so basically, we managed to get together quite a number of clients that are using our services. More exactly, over 200 clients use our services at this point, which gave us 2 million revenue in the last 12 months. Ideally, the growth, we are more used to over 100% growth, but as you figured out by now, this is not recurring revenue. It's very much dependent on the operations, and the e-commerce market has been, in the last period, suffering some supply chain problems that, of course, we'll also see. So most of our growth is mostly extensive and not intensive, as it happens this year as well. But still, the market is very big. So only CEE has a large attainable market, but the EU as a whole has it even larger. And it's not even worth to put the worldwide market because the numbers get really high. It doesn't really make sense to show so high numbers at this point. Why we believe we can get these markets? Because the team is really strong. Each of us have really strong experience in the industry, in the field, and we've been through e-commerce problems and logistics problems for several years, so we all understand in depth the industry. Thank you very much. I guess we start with the competition question.
Thank you very much for your pitch. Igor, do you want to go first now?
Yeah, so Bogdan, congratulations. The numbers speak for itself. 2 million in revenue, it's still something significant. So if I would be seeing this in a very early stage company, I will be questioning the model, but it works. So can you tell me, like, who is the specific type of user that you actually pays for this? You mentioned different, like even delivery couriers. You mentioned also warehouses. Do you have like e-commerce stores? Like, can you break down the clients that you have?
Yes. So basically, you can look at us like a marketplace. On one side, we have the couriers and the warehouses. Those are the easy ones to get. It's not even a bother for us. And the challenge is to get the e-commerce businesses. So those are the clients we are talking about. Now, the typical e-commerce business that would choose Frisbo is not really the one that would work locally and choose a local fulfiller who would maybe give him a better price, and they are there, they know each other and so on, but are the ones who have dreams of expansion outside. To give you just one example, which I know I'm allowed to give, one of our Polish clients actually, who's running Xiaomi official stores in other countries, for instance in Romania and Hungary, chose us especially for this, because they can expand with us in every country without the need of doing another integration, no search, nothing. And setting up a fulfillment service, it's quite hard in terms of integration, moving stock, aligning everything. So once you do the effort, you don't want to really do it for every country, every time.
And just go with one. I was looking at the map. You said next will be the Baltics. I'm coming from another untapped region, which is the Balkans. So what would be for you the solution? Is that something interesting for you to expand?
Well, yes. If you mean Greece and the south, even Turkey, actually quite last week I have been traveling to Istanbul, had really nice meetings, and it seems like the Balkans are really open to this type of solution. Why? One of the things is, like every country, there is a limit to growth inside, even for, just think, large marketplaces. In all these regions, there is typically one large marketplace that cannot grow anymore because they kind of satisfy the local market. So they need outside sellers. And Frisbo seems like a solution through which outside sellers can easily get into their country. And on the other hand, the local ones, they're very interested into getting outside because they reach their own limit as well. So it seems like this type of service seems to be even more attractive as we get outside of the EU, because it looks like an entrance to the EU, which is very easy for the other markets.
This was what I wanted to say, that maybe you should go in that untapped markets because they will look at as a gateway to European Union.
It's exactly like that, yes.
Yeah, if you let me, I would like to challenge your idea a little bit, because I see that you have a good ambition in terms what you would like to achieve with this company and with this product. At the same time, I feel that you are still before the biggest scale-up challenge that the company at this stage usually has. So I wonder, because the underlying technology, of course, I'm not aware of the algorithm, but I assume this is not something really, really high level and complicated. No. The same, I'm not aware of how good is your marketing. So I would assume that your main advantage would be in the operational excellence and execution. So I wonder, how would you make sure that in the future, if you would like to grow the company to the European level, you make sure that there is enough of customer stickiness and you can really win this market when new competitors will be for sure approaching you?
Yes. One thing which is bad and good at the same time, it's not an easy setup to do in every country. So it's kind of, that's why there are very few competitors. We compete with every local fulfiller, but we also partner up with them. But when it comes to a network of fulfillment, there are very few that do this, and there are only local initiatives going to 2 or 3 countries mostly. So at this point, there is no startup that managed to bring so many countries together. And it's not the technology, it's not the know-how, it's simply, it's really hard to get into every country, find everything, sign everything, and do it. The other thing is, what we typically do when we go into a country, we are trying to hack the entrance a bit. So, and we have a few ways. One, we bring existing portfolio of clients into those countries, so we go with them. We don't start from nothing and just try to, fish some local sellers. The other, we are trying to identify a local e-commerce champion, person, influencer, which we usually try to recruit in the company and, to become part of the team, and then, not start from nothing and building credibility and so on. And our marketing is actually not bad. It's quite...
I will check it later.
Yeah. I mean, even in Poland, I think the first time we came in, we had a very nice article in Puls Biznesu, in the print and everything. So we are trying to, from the marketing side, we are really trying to have a significant presence in every country we go to. And the biggest challenge in expanding with this model is actually the operations quality, because we do not really control what's happening there at the pick and packing. So we have to choose the best fulfillers in every country. And that's why we went with this model of integrating their VMS, because best fulfillers already invested hundreds of thousands, if not even millions, in their own VMS. So they would not accommodate some startup, VMS wannabe. And this kind of ensures us a good quality, because we get to work with the best in every country.
So what are the next steps that you're planning for the company, like fundraising, going into new markets or something else?
We realize that this will be a race pretty soon once all the others figure out the way of scaling, and we have to, now that we proved the model and we proved we could get out of Romania, we proved we have clients using multiple warehouses and so on, what we need to do is scale as fast as possible. So yes, the plan is to raise around this year. Now, we are at the beginning of it, so it's something between 5 and 10 million. We are looking at different scenarios. Of course, 10 million is more aggressive. 5 million is more, natural for where we are. But yes, this is the next step.
I would. That was also my question. What would be the next step? But can you just clear? You mentioned something about the 2 million that are not recurring revenues. What you were meaning by that? You don't have as an MRR, or?
It's hard to call it. I would like to call it an MRR, but it's hard because it's operations based. So
on volume.
It's on volume. So every store pays per processed order. Now, if the market goes down, And the e-commerce market now went down with the war and the economic situation. Actually, the e-commerce market, even though it's not in the news yet, it did go down. We can feel it in the volumes. We do compensate by new countries, new customers, and so on, but we see the volume per client, per seller. It went down now. It will go up when the market recovers, which is also good. But that's why, you know, I would love to call it ARR, but it really isn't. So let's say 80% is
more
ARR.
Markets means more revenue, more volume.
Exactly. On the same side, this also has a good side, because if the market goes up, then the volume per client goes up. And many times there are markets, especially in Eastern Europe, that go up 20, 30% just because they go up, just because they take from classical retail. And then we go up because we simply go up with our clients. So it's on both sides.
What do you predict would be the cost for entering Turkish market, because it's a vast market? Like, what would be the cost per market acquisition?
Usually our cost per market acquisition overall in all markets, we spend about 3,000 euros in total to acquire a client. This means marketing and sales all together. Now the customer lifetime value is around 12,000 euros. So that's kind of the ratio. It's 4 times the...
And how long does it take you to enter a new market in months?
It doesn't take us long in terms of being there. We usually go in, sign warehouses, start integrations, and it's all set up in 1 month. It's a question of how much time it takes us to be relevant in that market. And that usually is, you know, it's like a 6 months process before we get first clients in that really start rolling, and then we are able to recruit from that market and move to other markets and so on. So,
just as a suggestion, I would love to see a case study presented of how a client really leverages your technology of accessing different markets and through numbers. So that would be for some next presentation.
For sure, we have to do that. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If our judges are going to stay on the stage, maybe we can just... You don't want to be on stage? We'd like to just tap into your knowledge a bit more.
You want to ask us something on the stage?
Of course. I mean, if anybody knows something more, then please. Thank you very much. First, I just wanted to have your opinion, generally speaking, about this scale-ups, and then we'll just go a bit more detail.
I said it to the last startup. Some startups seem that they're working in a space that it's new. So is there market for and like potential? Yeah, if there is actually traction, we go after it, and we just see of all these questions of how easy to access new and what's the trajectory, so that as an investor you can be sure that there is a return of investment at some point. And we didn't touch on the last investor about potential exits. So that was one of the questions I didn't ask, but hopefully we can talk later.
I think that maybe one thing that would be very important to mention, especially when it comes to such kind of events as Wolf Summit, you have an opportunity to ask about something. And what I was really missing is like the last slide, that we are here because we are, I don't know, entering the Polish market, looking for investor, anything like that. And I feel like it's very often just missing an opportunity, because then maybe there is somebody in the audience that can then come to you and discuss this matter that you're looking for. And I think it's always good to add this slide at the end.
I mean, knowing the maturity level of the startups in this region, even the fact that we have a scale-ups, for me, is very interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because usually when it comes to events in this region, as you mentioned, we very often see very seed startups, even idea stage companies, and here 1-2 million revenue, it's really like very good to finally see that those companies are emerging.
I mean, like it's like you have a 1-year-old kid, and then somebody says that my son, 1-year-old, is running faster than yours. And I was like, your 1-year-old son runs. It's like, because they don't even walk, right? So knowing the maturity level of the startups in this region, even the fact that they are here, for me, it's amazing. And let's just say, hopefully,